This is Bedtime Stories, Grownup Edition, Collateral Damage, Part 6. When we left off, Q had exhausted all of his earthly options, and his hands were tied until he could get up with the hacker, Lorenzo. Manny is no longer suspected of being involved in Veronica's disappearance with the children, and when LJ and Bernie arrive in Moline, their first stop is the estate where Clarence lives, Bernie's brother. Clarence had a rare autoimmune disorder, and finding out that Veronica was his daughter saved his life. Veronica banked baby Bella's cord blood, and then she donated it to Clarence for his use in a clinical trial. The trial was successful, and since then, Clarence has been healthier than he'd been in years. So LJ figures that if Veronica contacted him for help, he'd oblige. But Miss Bernie is adamant that her brother would never help Veronica due to another man what had been done to him. LJ said, well, we shall see. Either way, I don't trust anybody right now, and that includes you. So I'll be keeping your cell phone and an eye on you until we get this all sorted out. Miss Bernie said, I understand. I just want these children found, and I want to repair my relationship with Angela and Donovan. LJ said, well, get comfortable, because this is long and tedious work. I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to lock the car door, so if you open it, the alarm will go off. Miss Bernie said, no problem. I'll be right here. Leave me a pair of those binoculars. I'll help. Otherwise, I'm going to fall asleep. Then LJ handed her a pair of binoculars, got out of the car, and went to work. He took everything that he would need with him to surveil the property. When he crept back up on the car, more than an hour later, Miss Bernie was in position. She had the binoculars trained on the house and didn't even hear or see him coming. So when he opened the door, he startled her. LJ laughed and said, oh, you serious about this, huh? Miss Bernie said, I'm as serious as that heart attack you almost gave me, boy. LJ connected all of the wireless cameras to the firm's server, and then he called the PI back in Dallas, who was waiting to be notified that they were online. He said, everything should be a go. Activate the motion detection sensors and let me know if anything odd is detected throughout the night. Miss Bernie and I are going to run down these locations where Veronica's family lives, grab dinner, check into our hotels, and call it a night. When LJ and Miss Bernie drove around to the neighborhoods where she recalled Veronica's family living, most of those houses had been torn down, rebuilt, and new people were living there. So LJ got on his laptop and, using the information that Miss Bernie provided, identified Veronica's remaining living relatives in Moline. She only had 2 living aunts and several cousins who were adults married with children of their own. Her 2 aunts were actually living together in their childhood home. So the pair went to those locations, scoped out the scenes, placed the hidden cameras, and called it a night. Early the next morning, when LJ checked in with the PI, he found that there wasn't any odd movement going on at any of the locations being surveilled. So LJ decided that it was time to have a conversation with Clarence. When they arrived, Clarence was clearly surprised to see them, and as usual, he was emotional, thanking LJ for all of his hard work helping him find his one and only daughter. LJ said, for the 100th time, you are absolutely welcome. But Clarence, we're here about a serious matter. Before LJ could continue, Miss Bernie said, Clarence, if you know where Veronica and those kids are, you better tell us right now. Clarence said, they're on vacation. She didn't tell you where she was going? LJ said, on vacation where? Clarence said, I don't know. I figured she'd have told you, Bernie. She didn't tell you? Bernie said, obviously she didn't tell me if we're here asking you. Now, what exactly did she tell you and when? Clarence said, well, it's Saturday, so that had to have been Wednesday night. She called and told me that her and the kids were going on vacation and that she'd be gone for a while and she'd call me when she could. LJ said, and you didn't find that odd? Clarence said, no. I figured that was her way of getting me not to call her multiple times a day every day, because that's what I usually do. LJ said, and you haven't heard from her at all since then? Clarence said, no, not at all. What's going on here? Bernie said, Veronica skipped town with the children. She's not on vacation. She left and isn't planning to come back. Clarence said, now you know she wouldn't have told me nothing like that. I'd never be part and parcel to a woman keeping a man's kids from him. After what Nancy and her family put me through, I'm going to call that girl right now. Then Clarence called Veronica, and the call went straight to voicemail. LJ said, "We've all tried to call Veronica. The phone is off. So you talked to her Wednesday night. And Bernie, she left the house Thursday morning at what time again?" Miss Bernie said, "She was up bright and early. She woke me up at 5 a.m. and she was already packed and ready to go." LJ said, "But she didn't get to the estate till a little after 9. And when we reviewed the cameras, it looks like the only thing that was inside the vehicle was her purse and the 2 car seats for the kids. So she must not have taken much with her." Miss Bernie said, "Oh no, she had 2 huge suitcases and the kids' double strollers. She had the strollers in the trunk, she had a suitcase in the floor of the front seat, and a suitcase in the back. It was barely enough room for baby Bella to get in. That's why it didn't occur to me she was picking up baby Chance too." LJ said, "Well, she had ample time to drop that luggage off somewhere, and I highly doubt that she took a flight. She could have rented a car and drove to Moline and back in that time." LJ called Q, and when he answered, LJ said, "Has Zoe checked the ALPR, the automated license plate reader system, for Veronica's car? I suspect that she probably rented a car." Q said, "Yep. He spotted her car on the E-way, getting on near her house and getting off in Fort Worth. Then it was spotted outside the hotel where we all stayed after the ambush. Her car was there for about 2 hours. Then she went to Walmart, and I've already gone there and spoken with the security guard. He let me see the footage. She bought a gang of snacks, some road food, toys, pull-ups for the kids, and some adult diapers." OJ said, "Obviously, she's planning on a longer trip than to Moline." Q said, "Exactly, and she doesn't plan to stop." Miss Bernie said, "Ew, that's disgusting." LJ said, "And smart." LJ asked, "Where'd she go after that, man?" Q said, "Then she went to the bank as soon as it opened and to the estate. After she got the kids, she went back to the hotel. And this morning, her car was towed from the hotel. I called one of my contacts at Fort Worth PD, and he told me that the hotel had her car towed since it wasn't associated with a registered guest." OJ said, "So she left the hotel by other means. Anything on the cameras?" Q said, "I couldn't get anybody at the hotel to let me review their cameras, so Zoe's working on it." LJ said, "Let's assume that she had another car waiting for her there. She could have still come to Moline, or she could have gone to Louisiana." Q said, "That's what I was thinking. I've got Bree and Delaney poised to go to Baton Rouge as soon as you give me the contact information." LJ said, "I'm on it." When Q and LJ hung up the phone, LJ and Miss Bernie headed to Veronica's mother Nancy's only living sibling's home. Nancy's sisters were both adamant that neither of them had heard from Veronica. In fact, they both said they hadn't seen Veronica since her mother's funeral. When Miss Bernie told them what Veronica did, what kind of father Donovan was, what kind of family he came from, and that she and Clarence had been united, the older of the 2 sisters immediately called a family meeting. When the aunts, children, and their spouses arrived, they were all singing the same song. They hadn't seen nor heard from Veronica, and they had no idea where she was. Then some of them had the audacity to say that if she left town with the kids, she must have had a good reason. So if they didn't know anything, they wouldn't say anyway. Hearing that, Miss Bernie went off. She said the only reason she had to kidnap those kids was the fact that their father didn't want to be with her. That man spent 2 years trying to get back together with her, and she turned him down flat. Then the minute he accepted her no, she got in her feelings and pulled this stunt. Donovan, just like my brother, does not deserve to be kept from his children. And as far as I'm concerned, Veronica would never have done something like this if her own mother wasn't forced to do this same thing to her father all those years ago." The older of Veronica's 2 aunts said, "And I agree. I was never in support of my family sending Nancy to Baton Rouge when they found out she was in the family way." That's how old people say pregnant. "I thought they should have gave Clarence an opportunity to do the right thing by her and that baby, but they were adamant that they wanted Nancy out of Moline so she could make something out of her life. She was supposed to give that baby up for adoption, but somehow She managed to talk our auntie into letting her keep that baby, helping her finish school and pick up a trade. And our parents didn't even know she kept Veronica until she upped and moved to Dallas. They were livid with our auntie and cut off all ties with the family in Louisiana. But by that time, I was an adult too. So I kept in touch with the family and with Nancy. And I'll have you know that Nancy always regretted being separated from her Clarence. When I told her that your mother died and you and Clarence lost the house and y'all both moved away and no one knew where y'all had gone, she was heartbroken, but she was resigned to raise her baby all by herself. LJ said, do you think that Donovan deserves to be separated from his children? Do you want the same pain for him that your parents caused Clarence? By that time, Veronica's aunt and Miss Bernie were in tears. Her auntie said, no. Then, against the rest of the family's wishes, she gave Miss Bernie the contact information for every relative she had in Louisiana and said, let me know if there's anything else I can do to help you. When Miss Bernie and LJ left and started heading back to Dallas, LJ got a call from the PI in Dallas who was monitoring the cameras in Moline, and he said, so the bug that you placed in the aunt's house is working perfectly. That family is still in there arguing. They're getting on her aunt about why she gave y'all that information, and she's holding her own. She definitely gave y'all real information. And they're all adamant that they really haven't heard from Veronica. As a matter of fact, some of them even said they don't even like her, and they wouldn't have helped her if she did contact them. And the other aunt said Veronica thinks she's too good for the family, so she probably not in Louisiana either. Meanwhile, in Dallas, when Angela finished cluing in Regina and MomBrenda about all that was going on, MomBrenda started praying silently. When she finished, she said in her still raspy voice, I need to see Stephanie. When Angela hung up with Regina, she called Steph, and when Stephanie answered, she was ready for battle. She said, let me guess, CT called you and got you all in our business. Now you want to play mediator. Angela said, Steph, I don't know what you're talking about. There are other things going on in the world than whatever's going on between you and your husband. But if you think that the issue between you and Corey is serious enough for him to clue me in, maybe you and I do need to discuss it. When Stephanie went to object, Angela said, before you say no and get all I'm a grown woman on me, Donovan's children are missing. Veronica kidnapped them. Stephanie said, wait, what? Angela said, you heard me? Stephanie said, see, I told you I ain't like that girl. I knew she wasn't nothing but trouble. I tell you what, Donovan sure know how to pick 'em. Angela said, Veronica is complicated. She's had a very difficult life. You have no idea what it had to be like for her, being raised by a mother who was bipolar, with no father, and very little family support. Stephanie said, oh, I don't. So we weren't raised by a mother, without our father, and very little family support? Angela said, but we had each other, and we had God as the foundation of our lives. We were also surrounded by people who loved us and helped Mommy. And Daddy did the best that he could before the accident. Stephanie said, oh my God, you still calling it an accident? Maria killed Daddy. And if Daddy would have been upfront with Mommy from the jump about who he was, about his family, about his history with Maria, Mommy and Daddy would have still been together and he probably would have still been alive. Angela said, you can't know how it would have turned out, Steph. While we don't know why, we do know that God makes no mistakes. And Stephanie said, Angela, please do not say everything happens for a reason. I cannot do you and your damn cliches right now. I love you, but you've got to live in reality. The truth is secrets separated Daddy and us from the Lopez family. Secrets ruined our parents' marriage, killed Daddy, and I bet you dollars to donuts it's going to require uncovering those secrets to find out where Veronica and those kids are. Angela was quiet for a while, and then she said, sis, have you sat down and talked with anyone about your trauma? Stephanie burst out laughing and said, So Donovan's kids are missing. Was there anything else that I needed to know? Because I'm about to wrap things up in the office so I can get out of here. Angela said, Steph, I'm serious. Stephanie said, I'm sure you are. Is there anything else? Angela said, MomBrenda wants to see you.